Good evening, dear colleagues, worthy colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen who are joining tonight on this terribly sad occasion. Um, we all will look back and try to remember when we found out the terrible news of the passing of dear Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. Uh, Probably the way I found out is a little bit odd, but in the context of who he was, very fitting. Came home from shul, made Havdalah, and then did my usual thing, was turn on the computer. And I had an email, which I will read to you. The email reads, "My deepest sympathy on the loss of Rabbi Sachs. I was frequently moved by his reflections on life and the role of faith therein. May his memory be a blessing for many. Sincerely yours." Now, this email was sent on Shabbos, and you will be happy to know that it was not sent by a Jewish person. It was sent by the Archbishop of Ottawa, Cornwall, Archbishop Terence Pendergast. And it was quite, in a sense, uplifting at the devastation of the news to know that his impact went so far that archbishops, and I'm sure he's not the only one, would say without any hesitation that they got their leadership, their inspiration, their feeling about the importance of faith from dear of Jonathan. Just the next day in a class that I give, I got a note from someone who I totally didn't expect to get saying, we should say Tehillim for the late chief rabbi. This is a person who was not in any sense religious, but felt connected. And we start thinking about the reach that he had. And we're talking about Canada, and he comes from England. But his reach was global, and his impact was infinite. Now I'm jumping back a number of generations. Long ago when I was young or younger, I had family that lived in England. One of them was a cousin of mine who was a rabbi in one of the shuls in the United Synagogue. And through that connection, he was very close with Rabbi Sachs, and I was very close with my cousin, so Chaver Chisle. So almost by mathematical definition, I became much more conversant with and had many occasions to meet Rabbi Sachs, saw him often during those years. And I was privy to some of the things that were happening in England that were the forerunner of what he was to become. He was shy, but at the same time, very, very friendly to everyone. And it's hard for us to think of a man of his intellectual prowess being at the same time so easygoing with individuals. There was not an ounce of haughtiness in him, and there was a total embrace of humanity. Didn't matter where. And I remember during that time, I mean, some people who go back a long time here remember Lahavdil Trudeau-mania. I lived through, when I was in England during those times, what we would probably call Sachs-mania. There was a great conference. I think Rabbi JJ Rabbi JJ may have even been at this traditional alternatives conference that was back, I don't know, maybe 45 or 50 years. It was the first time, I think, that the world at large had a little bit of an exposure to this incredible human being and outstanding leader. And from that time on, England was captivated by him. He became the chief rabbi. And there's always this question that rabbis ask, the question is, what happens to the Kohen Gadol after he finishes his term? What do you do after you're chief rabbi? And he answered that question in such an eloquent way, because after he left the position of chief rabbi, after he retired from there, he just grew generally into becoming the world's chief rabbi. Not just the chief rabbi for the Jewish community, but as has been pointed out, the chief rabbi for the world at large. It was deliberate on his part because he understood the bigger picture. And I am deeply grateful to Rabbi Jay Kelman, who shared a video that he had made with of Rabbi Sachs's visit to Toronto a number of years ago. And I watched it, and there was something in it that really struck a chord about what he was all about. And this was his talking about the students that came to him, the Union of Jewish Students in England, because they were battling anti-Semitism on campus. And they came to him with the question, what do we do for this? How do we fight this? And I'm sure if we were asked this question, and we asked it maybe as rabbis were asked this in various ways, we think about it sometimes. We say, what can you do about it? Whatever. We may have ideas, but I'm not sure how much impact they make. And Rabbi Sachs, in his unique genius, took an approach which showed why he was so much larger than life and how much he was able to transcend the small stuff and to really always, and this was his genius, to always focus on the big picture. He's told the students, looked them straight in the eye and said, you are going to become the leaders of the fight on campus against Islamophobia. Well, it took tremendous genius to say, where would you look? You looked, fight anti-Semitism by fighting Islamophobia. He insisted they do this. They followed him. And this became a powerful force on campus that at one and the same time brought Islamophobia to the fore and the fight against it, and also cemented relationships between the Islamic and the Jewish community. And what a wonderful insight and foresight about how to step outside of the usual and not look at ways to knock people down and not look at ways to lament, but really to focus on how can I actually make a difference, and how can I stay positive? He had challenges in his life. Being a chief rabbi is not a picnic, but at no point in time did he ever steep to any pettiness. He was always above the fray. And in his leadership role, which after he became chief rabbi of England, finished his term, he became chief rabbi to the world, he was able to show how to always focus on the big picture and to understand that pettiness gets you nowhere, that largesse, understanding, commiseration, appreciation, and working together gets you everywhere. Today's Torah reading coming up is about something quite appropriate as we contemplate this extraordinary human being who graced our world and has bestowed us with so much blessing. Toward the end of the Torah reading of Chai Yisrael, we're told that Avraham Avinu, who was in his time the one who brought that great message to the world, that he was buried by his children, Yitzchak and Yishmael. Going backwards now, we're looking at it, we see these were two nations that were emanating from Avraham Avinu. And with all the differences that they had, when it came time to acknowledge the greatness of their father, they were together because they realized how much of a difference he made for the world. This we recognize today doesn't make a difference. We come from the Jewish community, from the Muslim community, the Christian community, any community. Religion has been ennobled by dear Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Sachs. We all have been uplifted and inspired by him. And we all recognize that he has made this world such a better place for so many people, an incredible life of an incredible human being. Yehi Zechro Baruch.